A faded photograph emerges from the depths of the archive. A towering battleship shrouded in mist, its silhouette almost mythic. Yet the accompanying radio intercept, cracked and fragmented, reveals a chilling contradiction. Orders to send the Yamato on a mission described as certain death. How could the mightiest battleship ever built be tasked with a suicide run? The broken radio echoes a deeper silence, the silence of a command that knew it was condemning its own flagship. Was the Yamato a symbol of unmatched power or a carefully concealed emblem of desperation? How did such a colossal war machine become a ghost of failure under layers of official secrecy? The declassified files trace the origins of the Yamato to a secretive naval strategy session in 1937, where Japan's high command sought an answer to the growing threat of the U.S. Pacific Fleet. The blueprint, unearthed from a Mitsubishi engineer's notes, shows a vessel designed to outgun any adversary. 460mm main guns, armor so thick it was said to withstand any shell. But beneath the gleaming steel lay a paradox. An obsession with firepower overshadowed by a critical blind spot: aircraft defense. The files reveal internal dissent, warnings dismissed, and a growing tension between admirals pushing for spectacle and those fearing tactical obsolescence. Why did the architects of this floating fortress ignore the emerging reality of air power? Was pride blinding strategy, or was something else at play behind the shrouded corridors of command? The Yamato's specifications read like the dream of naval supremacy. 263 meters long, displacing over 70,000 tons, with 9 460mm guns capable of firing 1,460-pound shells nearly 42 kilometers. But the blueprints also expose vulnerabilities: slow speed, limited maneuverability, and a minimal anti-aircraft battery compared to the rising threat of carrier-based planes. An engineer's marginal note, barely legible, hints at hurried compromises in armor placement to save weight. The ship was a paradox, built to reign supreme in a world rapidly outgrowing battleships. Why did the naval command gamble so heavily on outdated doctrine? Could the Yamato's colossal size and firepower mask a fatal strategic miscalculation? April 7th, 1945. The Yamato embarks on Operation Tengo, a final desperate sortie aimed at defending Okinawa. The decklog, smudged and torn, records the crew's grim resolve. Expectations were high. The greatest battleship was to turn the tide. But within hours, U.S. carrier aircraft overwhelmed its defenses. Torpedoes and bombs tore through the hull. The ship capsized and sank with over 3,000 men lost. A haunting aerial photograph from an American pilot captures the moment of destruction, the once mighty giant reduced to a burning wreck. How did the Yamato, designed to dominate seas, fall so swiftly? Why did the fleet fail to provide adequate air cover for its crown jewel? Was this a failure of tactics, technology, or something more sinister? The enemy's response to the Yamato's threat was swift and ruthless. U.S. Navy instructions, declassified decades later, reveal a tactical doctrine focused on overwhelming air assaults, exploiting the battleship's slow speed and weak anti-aircraft defenses. The files include intercepted Japanese communications showing frantic attempts to retrofit the Yamato with last-minute anti-aircraft guns, a desperate gesture against an unstoppable tide of carrier planes. The contrast between the ship's original design and its final armament paints a picture of reactive desperation. How did the once feared battleship become a floating target? Did the Japanese naval leadership underestimate the transformative power of air warfare, or were they trapped by pride and tradition? As the war turned inexorably against Japan, the Yamato became a symbol not of glory, but of ruin. The final mission's operational map, stained and annotated, reveals a one-way course, a suicide run to Okinawa with no realistic chance of survival. The protocols show a command resigned to sacrifice, hoping to delay the inevitable. Survivor memoirs describe the eerie silence broken only by explosions, the ship's final moments captured in faded film reels now preserved in the archives. How did this transformation, from pride of the fleet to emblem of defeat, pass unnoticed for so long? Was the Yamato's fate a deliberate act of despair hidden beneath layers of wartime propaganda and censorship? Each episode is a Document I pull from the dust of the archives. Share your own stories. Many of you have relatives who lived through that time, and your words help connect personal memory with archival evidence. Stay curious. Subscribe so you don't miss the next episode tomorrow. Beneath the surface of the Yamato's final voyage lies a trove of intercepted communications, fragments of radio chatter between fleet commanders and shore installations. One message, partially decoded and heavily redacted, hints at internal dissent. A squadron commander questioning the rationale of sending the battleship without adequate air support. The crackling static over the speakers distorts the urgency in his voice, as if the very airwaves tried to suppress the truth. These intercepted fragments unveil a critical fissure in command. Was the mission a calculated strategic sacrifice, or a cover for a deeper failure of coordination? How did such conflicting orders persist in the face of overwhelming odds? And why were warnings systematically ignored or erased? The weather reports from early April 1945 add another layer of complexity. A detailed meteorological chart, annotated by a naval meteorologist, reveals poor visibility conditions and unpredictable winds around Okinawa. Conditions that should have favored a cautious approach but instead accompanied a reckless charge. The smells of sea salt and fuel oil mingle with the stifling heat as sailors brace themselves against the impending storm of enemy aircraft. The archives include a report from a radar operator who noted suspicious gaps in reconnaissance transmissions. Was the Yamato's fate sealed not only by enemy fire, but by environmental miscalculations and intelligence failures? Could nature itself have conspired with human error to doom the flagship? The ship's logbook, preserved under glass, records the gradual erosion of morale as the mission unfolded. Early entries boast of the Yamato's unmatched firepower. Later pages are smudged with sweat and despair, recounting repeated air raids and mounting casualties. One entry, scrawled in haste, mentions a critical communications blackout just before the final attack, a silence broken only by the distant thud of explosions. The image of the ship's battered deck, captured in a grainy photograph taken moments before sinking, shows crew members scrambling, their faces etched with fear and disbelief. How did the command structure unravel so completely in the final hours? Was this chaos a failure of leadership or the inevitable collapse of a flawed strategic vision? Meanwhile, engineers' notes recovered from the Mitsubishi archives reveal hurried modifications made in the months leading up to the battle. Additional anti-aircraft guns welded onto the superstructure, reinforced but overcrowded gun platforms, and hastily installed radar systems. Yet these adaptations were piecemeal and reactive, a patchwork defense against an aerial threat that had already outpaced battleship design. A blueprint overlay shows the cramped, labyrinthine internal layout, suggesting that these last-minute modifications may have introduced vulnerabilities rather than remedies. Why were these changes allowed so late in the war, and why did they fail to alter the outcome? Was the Yamato's design fundamentally obsolete, or was it sabotaged by its own creator's desperation? The psychological toll on the crew is documented in a series of handwritten letters smuggled out before the final mission. One sailor's note, stained with seawater, speaks of pride intertwined with dread, the heavy burden of knowing they sailed to death yet bound by honor to fight. The smell of ink and salt lingers on the fragile paper, a haunting reminder of human cost buried beneath the steel hull. These personal testimonies contrast starkly with official reports that celebrated the ship's bravery while glossing over the chaos and despair. How did the myth of invincibility persist amidst such palpable fear? Was this collective silence a form of denial imposed by the military apparatus, or a deeper cultural refusal to confront failure? Finally, the post-war analysis documents, recently declassified, reveal a deliberate suppression of the Yamato's catastrophic defeat in Japanese media and official histories. A faded directive from Naval Command instructs censorship of reports that could undermine morale or damage the image of the Imperial Navy. Propaganda still portrayed the battleship as a symbol of unwavering strength, masking the truth behind layers of myth and omission. The archives include testimonies from historians and archivists who witnessed these erasures firsthand. Why was the truth about the Yamato's demise hidden for so long? What does this concealment say about the nature of military memory and the price of national pride? The newly uncovered tactical maps from the Yamato's last mission reveal an unsettling detail. The battleship's course was deliberately routed through waters heavily patrolled by enemy submarines and aircraft, with no accompanying escort capable of countering these threats. The map's annotations made in haste mark the intended defensive perimeter as insufficient and vulnerable. The faint scent of fading ink on the paper seems to echo a quiet resignation, as if those plotting the course knew the outcome before the ship even left port. Why did the command choose such a perilous route, knowingly exposing the vessel to annihilation? Was this a calculated gambit, a political statement disguised as military strategy, or something darker, an intentional sacrifice masked as valor? Further examination of the crew rosters and personnel files unearthed in the archives indicates a troubling trend. A significant portion of the Yamato's complement were young, inexperienced sailors hastily assigned due to severe manpower shortages. The grim black and white photographs show fresh-faced youths standing awkwardly on deck, juxtaposed against veteran officers whose faces are etched with exhaustion and doubt. According to memoirs, the rapid conscription left critical roles understaffed and training incomplete. How did this erosion of experience factor into the ship's rapid downfall? Could the loss of seasoned sailors have crippled the Yamato's capacity to mount an effective defense, hidden beneath the sheen of its massive guns and thick armor? A recently declassified report from a U.S. Navy pilot involved in the attack adds a chilling perspective. The pilot's handwritten notes and sketches describe the battle as a merciless execution, highlighting the battleship's inability to adapt to modern warfare. The pilot's illustration depicts the Yamato as a floating fortress, caught in a deadly spotlight, its movements sluggish and predictable. The pilot's voice, recorded in an interview decades later, carries an eerie calmness as he recounts the precision strikes that sealed the ship's fate. How did a vessel heralded as invincible become so exposed to systematic destruction? Was the Yamato's downfall a foregone conclusion in the face of evolving military technology, or did its command fail catastrophically to anticipate the new rules of engagement? Engineering logs from the Yamato's engine room, recently digitized, disclose alarming maintenance issues during its final voyage. Reports describe overheating boilers, malfunctioning turbines, and a fuel shortage that forced the ship to operate at less than optimal speed. The oily scent of machinery grease and burnt fuel seems to seep from the pages, a testament to the mechanical strain endured. These technical failures compromised maneuverability, leaving the battleship an easier target for relentless aerial assault. How did such critical defects evade the notice of command before deployment? Was this neglect a symptom of resource scarcity, or a deeper indication of the desperate state of Japan's wartime industry? The psychological warfare documented in Allied intelligence files reveals a layered strategy aimed at breaking Japanese morale through the symbolic destruction of the Yamato. Propaganda leaflets dropped over Japanese-held islands depicted the sinking in stark, demoralizing terms, aiming to shatter the myth of invincibility surrounding the battleship. A grainy film reel, recovered from a captured Allied broadcast, shows the aftermath of the attack, with haunting images of burning wreckage and survivors clinging to debris. How did this psychological assault amplify the sense of national defeat? Was the Yamato's sinking exploited not just as a military victory, but as a weapon to erode the will to resist? Finally, the archives contain a series of confidential post-war evaluations by Japanese naval officers, reflecting on the Yamato's legacy with rare candor. These documents, heavily redacted but unmistakably critical, describe the ship as a monument to hubris, a tragic miscalculation that drained resources and morale. The stark handwriting contrasts sharply with the polished official histories, revealing bitterness and regret. The final note, smudged and nearly illegible, poses the haunting question: did the Yamato symbolize strength or shame? Was it a testament to Japan's industrial might, or a painful reminder of a strategy that refused to evolve until it was too late? In the end, the Yamato stands not merely as a wreck beneath the waves, but as a testament to the fatal collision between tradition and modernity, pride and pragmatism. The declassified archives lay bare a narrative long suppressed, A battleship conceived as the ultimate weapon, yet doomed by its very design and the stubbornness of those who commanded it. Its colossal guns could not counter the invisible threat from the skies. Its armor could not shield it from the shifting tides of warfare. The ship's final voyage was less a battle than a requiem, a deliberate surrender to the relentless advance of history. What remains hidden beneath the rusting hull is not just metal, but the echoes of decisions, errors, and silences that turned a symbol of power into an emblem of national humiliation. The Yamato story forces us to ask, how do nations reconcile the myths they build with the truths they must face? And what price is paid when the past is buried too deep under layers of secrecy?